처음 발표해 주실 분은 오클랜드 대학교 바이오엔지니어링연구소의 다이아나 시우 박사님이고요. 뉴질랜드 바이오 헬스케어 전반과 스타트업 지형 소개라는 주제로 발표해 주시겠습니다. 부탁드립니다.
안녕하세요 from me. Thank you for the invitation to share some of my insights to New Zealand's healthtech sector. And although we meet on Zoom today, I'm hoping to be able to visit South Korea sometime again soon and perhaps even meet some of you. Today, what I will do is talk to you about, basically I'll give you an introduction to New Zealand's healthtech sector, mainly around medical devices and digital health. And then I thought I'd discuss the BioBridge, which is an international partnering initiative that might be interesting as a template to actually work with South Korea and other international collaboration. I am going to be representing the Consortium for Medical Device Technologies, which is called the CMDT, and the MedTech Center of Research Excellence called the MedTech Core today. Together, the CMDT and MedTech Core make up New Zealand's National Research Industry Network. The CMDT is a single point of contact for New Zealand's health tech capability and resources for companies as well as individuals, both for New Zealanders and also for people from overseas. So while the MedTech Core is, on top of that, the MedTech Core is New Zealand's translational platform for new medical technologies. Together, this network has close working relationships with a lot of stakeholders, researchers, clinicians, companies, and government organizations. We are a partnership between the government's innovation agency called Callaghan Innovation and 5 of our top universities, which are indicated in the slide. And along with this partnership are our 2 medical schools. Both of these initiatives are hosted out of the University of Auckland at the Bioengineering Institute, where I'm based. Now, to begin, this is a snapshot of our industry. Healthtech is now New Zealand's largest secondary industry at 1.9 billion, and today we have 185 homegrown New Zealand healthtech companies. We have one very large billion-dollar company, Fisher & Paykel Healthcare. Some of you might know it because it's really well known in sleep apnea technology. And then we have 21 established companies, which are between 3 and 250 million. The rest are startups and scale-ups in the pre-revenue to $3 million bracket, which brings a vibrancy to our industry, but there's also an urgency to grow. The startup and scale-up cohort is dominated mainly by device and digital health companies. Now, at the bottom of this page is a link to a 2020 report, which you can get a better in-depth view of the sector than I can cover today. This slide shows you the spread of the 185 health tech companies in New Zealand. There are 4 main centers. Auckland is the largest, followed by Canterbury, Wellington, and then Otago. So there's no real specific specialization in these centers, but there is a mix of companies across New Zealand. There are pockets of critical mass, though, which is fueled by close collaboration between research, clinical expertise, and companies. So, for example, orthopedics, covering implant design and manufacturing, is strong in Canterbury and Auckland, while rehabilitation technologies, such as for stroke and traumatic brain injury, is centered in Auckland, Canterbury, and Otago. The list of companies on the left here are the 22 established health tech companies, which I mentioned earlier. Now, this is a pie chart which gives you a bit of a reference point of New Zealand's health tech strengths in relation to 5 broad areas. The largest is digital health and health informatics. And then this is followed by assistive technologies and diagnostics and therapeutics. Tissue engineering and regenerative medicine and interventional technologies are 2 of our emerging areas, and so they're kind of like about 10% of the total sector. The circle of companies around the chart are examples of some of the companies associated with each area. And you can go to the internet and actually Google and look up these companies. But some interesting examples, Melon Health, they have a platform for well-being and mental health. Pacific Edge is a bladder cancer diagnostic company, which is based on genetic biomarkers. And Soul Machines is pretty interesting. They create virtual humans for applications, including first health responders. And these virtual humans have also been used for New Zealand's COVID-19 response to provide information to the public. These 5 areas are also where we focus our public research in the MedTech core. And we build on the activities where New Zealand has competitive advantage supported by excellent science. Now, one of the newest areas that we are growing is in the diagnostics and devices for gut health, which fits under interventional technologies. And this has arisen from work supported by the MedTech core based on research from the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. 3 companies have been formed in the last 5 years. Also in the last 5 years, and partly due to the MedTech core, we have had more health tech startups come out of the universities, which are really based on strong science and clinical foundations. At the end of 2019, the Auckland Bioengineering Institute created the Cloud9 startup space, mainly to help these fledgling companies bridge the gap between research and commercialization. The companies that are currently on Cloud9 are listed here at present, and they cover a whole lot of different areas. 3 are in the AI-based technologies, so Formus Labs for orthopedic implant AI, Toku Eyes in diabetic retinopathy screening, and Heart Lab for heart screening. We also have the diagnostic companies, Elementary and Fleximap in the gut health area that I mentioned earlier, and in assistive technologies, Tunofem in women's health, and Vivify AR technologies for the hearing impaired. One point that I'd like to note is that the New Zealand government supports the early stage commercialization of publicly funded research through a pre-seed acceleration fund, which is run out of our university networks. This has been really successful in cultivating an entrepreneurial culture in our tertiary sector, and it has also helped growing new ventures like these ones in Cloud9. Now, at this point, I just want to take a bit of a diversion and highlight the work at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute, as it has relevance to the personal healthcare area that, as I understand, is of interest to South Korea. The Institute is a world leader in computational physiology, and we have modeled all the major organ systems. So this work, together with our capability in developing new sensors and devices, now underpins applications in human health around new diagnosis methods and personalized therapies. Our technologies have been commercialized in various startups, like the ones in Cloud9, and also Soul Machines, which I mentioned earlier, was founded from work from this institute. This slide here summarizes the Healthtech ecosystem in New Zealand. Pretty busy, many players, but the main point is that we are well connected across the innovation pipeline, from research to clinical translation to commercialization. And this is actually pretty important, especially for overseas people coming into play in our health tech ecosystem. Now, to scale and grow, these are the 4 areas that our startups need. Investment, of course, is number 1, and we particularly need investment in a $2 to $10 million range. This is a capital gap not covered by our own active angel and VC network currently. New Zealand companies are increasingly attracting overseas investment groups, and most of them come from the US, UK, and Australia at present. Our companies and research groups are interested in partnerships with international researchers, clinicians, and companies. We are keen on relationships with both private and public clinical networks who might be interested in trialing our technologies. And finally, New Zealand is very far from the rest of the world, and so getting market intelligence can be challenging. We need better connections to international markets to understand local needs, the regulatory and business requirements. We have really good connections into our established export markets right now, such as Australia, US, UK, and Japan, but we're just learning how to partner with our emerging markets, particularly the ones in Asia, and that includes South Korea. So in the last 2 slides, I thought I will introduce the BioBridge initiative that we are currently working on to connect the medical devices and digital health innovation ecosystem in Australia and New Zealand. The intention is to develop a linked critical mass in health tech innovation and commercialization in the two countries, building on the strong and close research, economic and trade ties that already exist. Now, this is the framework for the BioBridge, which covers 4 partnership areas: research, clinical validation and testing, innovation, and indigenous health. We identified 5 health themes, which are under the research lane, that we have identified as important to both countries, and this will provide the focus for our collaborations. The objective of the BioBridge is to develop long-term formalized partnerships that will help accelerate research and grow our health tech industries, both in New Zealand and Australia. So what this really means for researchers and companies entering each of our markets is that they can use the BioBridge to access a known and trusted network so that they can be quickly linked up to local resources and expertise. And this will reduce their time and costs in entering the market. The BioBridge is funded by our New Zealand Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment as part of its activities around the Australia-New Zealand Science Cooperation Treaty. And we hope to use this, as I said earlier, as a template to connect and collaborate with other countries in the future. So why work with New Zealand? Well, we're increasingly recognized for our innovative achievements in healthcare and the vibrant ecosystem that we have to support health tech growth. We have many opportunities for investors as well as for research and business partnering. We have a well-educated workforce. We have a friendly compliance environment, which is very unlike the US. Our regulatory requirements are not onerous, but we still maintain high safety oversight. And the World Bank has just recently ranked New Zealand as the top country in the world to do business. So finally, if you are interested in finding partners in New Zealand, the New Zealand health tech sector, or want to get connected into the university system, please get in touch with the CMDT or myself, and I will be very happy to help point you to the right people to talk to if I'm not the right one. So, kamsahamnida, and thank you for your interest in New Zealand health tech.